I'm Michael Figlock, and this is In the Studio. Today we'll be talking about Yolo County Animal Services. And who do we have here?
This is Petunia. She's a 2-year-old mixed breed pit bull mix. She's available for adoption at the shelter, and many other dogs like her as well.
You can introduce yourselves.
My name is Kelly Lee. I work for the Yolo County SPCA at the Animal Shelter in Woodland. I'm the dog rescue coordinator.
My name is Vicky Fletcher, and I work for the Yolo County Sheriff's Office as the Director of Animal Services.
So I guess the first question I have is, what would sort of the mission statement of Yolo County Animal Services be?
Well, our goal is to be committed to the protection of the Yolo County citizens, as well as their pets and animals. Livestock, we cover just about any other kind of animal. We feel that we're there to protect the people from the animals that don't behave well, and the animals from the people who don't behave well. Mm-hmm. And we're there to provide the temporary care for animals in need, animals without homes, animals abandoned, or animals abused. And we try to seek placement of all the adoptable animals that come into our care, and we also try to implement programs in order to help promote the safety and welfare of animals in the community. And we try to reduce pet overpopulation through spay and neuter and encourage others to do so, and encourage our local veterinarians to get involved in that as well. And we like to implement whatever kind of progressive programs we can find that will help with that. Part of that is a recent implementation of our community cat program.
What's the community cat program?
Community cat program involves, there's a lot of cats out in our community that they may be just the neighborhood kitty that somebody feeds, but they don't always feed and fix. They sometimes just feed. So the community cat program makes an effort to try to do the fix program part of it too. So if we can help, or we get other veterinarians involved to help, we've done some community cat clinics at the animal shelter, and we're looking forward to working with the SPCA to do more.
I guess the question I have is, why is adoption important as a general thing?
Well, adoption is a permanent home for the animals. We have people who are involved in foster care. We have volunteers that help extend the time that animals are with us in the shelter through home programs by keeping them, learning more about them and keeping them going. But adoption is the ideal thing. The quicker that animals can get adopted, the more frequently we can help the animals in need. And as animals move through our shelter faster, they stay healthier. And it's good for them to be back out in the community as much as possible.
Okay, how would somebody go about getting into, adopting an animal?
Well, they can come to the animal shelter. They can see the animals that we have available on the sheriff's website, on our Facebook page. They can go to petharbor.com and put in your zip code for the animal shelter, which is 95776, and they can see what we have available. If they want to know more, they can come in and talk to our volunteers. They're out there with the animals. They know probably more about them than generally everybody around the shelter, just because every volunteer spends a lot of time with each individual animal. They have a lot, that's kind of their focus, one of the focuses that they do. And it's their goal to help with placement, so they want to share whatever information they know. That's kind of part of the reason why we send them home to foster at people's homes, because we can find out more about them and how they'll do in somebody's living environment. And we can give them a better idea of whether or not it'll get along with their other dog, or if it's been exposed to cats, or if it's been around children, or any of those things that the shelter wouldn't normally have available to provide.
What other sort of criteria would a dog sort of like, or whatever, be evaluated on at a foster environment?
A lot about it gives us the opportunity to find out if they're housebroken, whether they have separation anxiety, or if they're willing to stay in a yard and be with people, or whether they can't manage to be, left alone for any period of time. And we have, Kelly is one of the people that helps work with people that adopt something or even have their own pet that has separation anxiety. We've worked through that with a lot of animals. In fact, we had one that had severe separation anxiety, and he ended up becoming a service dog for somebody, which that was the ideal thing. All he wanted to do was be with somebody all the time, and that person needed somebody to be with him all the time, so the combination was perfect.
Wow. Where is the shelter? If I wanted to go and visit the shelter to adopt an animal, where is it located exactly?
We're in Woodland. We're on Gibson Road. We face Gibson Road. Our address is 140C, Tony Diaz Drive, but that actually faces Gibson Road for the shelter. It's been there since the early 70s. It's near the corner of County Road 102 and Gibson Road. Mm-hmm. And we're open 6 days a week. We're open Monday afternoons. We're open Tuesday through Friday from 10 until 6, and Saturdays from 10 until 4, and we close for lunch from 1 to 2.
Okay. Are there any dog breeds that are more likely to be at the Yolo County Animal Services facility than other dog breeds?
Well, every shelter kind of carries dog breeds indicative of their population and of the human population and what their interests are. Frequently, how we end up with animals there at the shelter are either through us picking up strays and them being not claimed by their owners, or by people having to surrender their pet because of their life change. Something happens and they're unable to keep their animal. And we have a fairly large number of pit bull or pit bull mixed breed dogs at the shelter, and that's probably because there are pieces and parts of the community who keep them and have them as pets, and so those are the ones who often end up in the shelter. And some of the smaller breeds that are easier to take into apartment living or small lot living frequently get adopted a lot quicker, and so we have to work a little bit harder to find out about these breeds in order to help them find more homes.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Petunia is going to be adopted soon?
I certainly hope so. She's been with us for a while, but she's a lovely dog and really has shown herself in our foster care to be a real homebody, quite a love, and you know, it's every dog's goal, I think, to have a lap.
Mm-hmm. How could somebody in the community or whatnot just get involved and assist in any way or another?
Well, we have lots of opportunity at the shelter now. We have recently, the sheriff instituted the volunteer coordinator position, so we have somebody to kind of help all those people who want to help out at the shelter, and they can come in and volunteer. They can come and adopt. They can certainly sponsor dogs to adopt if they don't. If they can't take one into their own household, they can come in and pay for an adoption and help somebody else do that adoption and encourage an adoption that way. They can be foster homes to animals, both dogs and cats. We have a foster kitten program. We just started last year. We probably saved the lives of over 300 kittens last year through our foster program, where when you don't have some place for the little guys to go that need that extra few weeks of care, it's a negative outcome, and so our goal is to find more positive outcomes. And our live release rates have gone up, and it's because people in the community want to help. And they can come in and be involved in the foster care program. We have a lovely way to train them. If they can't do that, you know, we can take monetary donations. We can take program donations such as kitten milk and, you know, kitten litter and kitten food and dog food and all kinds of things. So there's all kinds of ways that the community can help. They can come and support us at our off-site events. If they don't want to volunteer directly at the shelter, sometimes for some people that's pretty heart-rending. But we have off-site events where they can come and support the staff that carry the dogs. We go to Pet Extreme in Woodland. We come over here to Davis to the flea market on the third Sunday of the month, and we're looking for more opportunities out there. So if there are businesses or groups of people who would like to have us come, and as our volunteer base continues to grow, we'd be happy to have more opportunity out in the public so people can see these animals in more of a home environment out there with the public, and they can see how well they behave in those kind of environments.
Do you have a lot of success with the offsite?
We've had some really good success with the offsite. A majority of what we take to those often get adopted. A lot of people, you know, I've been in the business for 28 years, and animal sheltering is difficult for some people. They see so many faces, they really don't know what to do next. And so coming to an offsite event, that works out really, really well. And I think it definitely has increased our opportunity. Many of our kittens last year got adopted at off-site events.
I had a friend who did the fostering kitties, and what sort of things does somebody need to know or have available for the kittens and whatnot before they were going to sort of foster them?
Well, it's nice because our foster kitten program has a registered veterinary technician and our veterinarian involved in the program, so they can give them a lot of skill. They need to learn how to, if they're really young kittens, they need to learn how to bottle feed. They need to learn how to care for their own animals if they have animals at home. We try always to make sure that the animals we're sending out to foster care are healthy, but there needs to be a little bit of a quarantine time, and so people need to understand about, maybe isolating them into another room and changing their clothes before they handle their own pets, at least for the first 2 weeks, so that you can ensure that that animal's going to be okay, especially since we're bringing in kittens from everywhere in the community. We really don't always know what they maybe have been exposed to before they reach us. But we have guidance. We have that outgoing. We'll provide, if they need it, we'll provide the kitty litter and the litter pans and the blankets and the towels and the crates and all that lovely stuff. So really it's all about their time and all about their willingness to be involved and bring the kittens in for regular checkups, weigh-ins, vaccines, all that kind of thing, because we like to see them when they get back into the program that they're ready to find a home. And they come back into the program, they get spayed, and they go up for adoption.
Is there anything in particular that we haven't covered that you think would be good for us to address?
Well, we would love for people to visit our Facebook page, which is www.facebook.com/ycas.shelter. That's the way to learn about volunteering, adoptable animals. We can always use more foster homes and more bodies in the shelter, loving on the animals and giving them extra attention. So absolutely, that's one of our biggest goals right now.
And another piece that we have is we talked a little bit about the community cat program. Part of that community cat program is that some cats that come into us can be put into our regular adoption program. Some cats can be able to, because they're healthy and they probably, when they come to us, have resources in the community, they're spayed and neutered and vaccinated and put back in the community. But there's that group of animals that, because of whatever environment they may have come out of, they don't necessarily have a place to go. And so we're looking all the time for barn homes for those feral cats that can't be placed into a regular adoption program. And they can contact the animal shelter about the barn cat program if they live out in the country and want to have an extra kitty. There's great support to that program about how to socialize that cat to its environment and what's needed, and there's a lot of support to that program. The person in charge of that will give a lot of counseling about how to manage that program, and it's a big thing that we find very helpful, just because there are those cats in the community that just really don't have a place or are unwanted, and we still want to find a positive outcome for them.
What does sort of does the barn environment sort of provide for them that a more traditional sort of living environment wouldn't accommodate?
Well, the traditional living environment we think of as being in a household, and these cats are probably cats that have had little or no contact with human until they end up in a trap and somebody brings them into the shelter. And they're what we call often feral. They spend a little time with us, so we get an opportunity to find out whether they're just frightened and have maybe, are a little bit overwhelmed in being in the animal shelter, or whether they are truly feral. And if they're truly feral, then putting them in a regular home environment is exceedingly difficult unless they're kittens. A lot of times we can work with them in that, but the adult cats especially. So by getting them back out into the farm environment where they have somebody to support them and a food resource that way, and they're spayed and neutered also, so there's no reproduction. And we find there are many studies have been done by UC Davis that by keeping cats in the environment that are altered and vaccinated often helps control the number of animals cats you will have involving coming into your property that are unaltered. So there's kind of a good piece of that pie that comes in well for the community as well.
I hear a lot about spaying and neutering, and I guess I just assume that it's a good thing because it sort of decreases the population. But can you think of any other things that are good about spaying and neutering?
Well, it certainly reduces fighting. It reduces the territorial issues, particularly with cat environments. But it's an important piece of having a healthy pet in this situation. If they're not altered, their reproductive systems are meant for a way that they need to generate reproduction. That's just the way they're made. And when that doesn't happen, they frequently have problems with cancer issues, mammary gland type of cancers and testicular cancer. And so they have found that by doing the spays and neuters, that removes some of that risk, obviously. And the animals, are more settled. They're more less likely to have jealousy issues and issues with being with other animals. We like to socialize with our pets and take them out to park environments and dog parks and all that kind of lovely stuff. And it doesn't mean that unaltered animals can't be learned to be socialized that way either. But many people who adopt and come to those kinds of environments and adopt from animal shelters, they're learning how to own a pet, or they're learning how to be out in the environment. And having an animal that's altered kind of helps with that whole program.
Right. Does it reduce fighting and jealousy issues in both cats and dogs, would you assume?
I do believe so, yes.
You said that you were working on something like progressive policies and whatnot, incorporating that earlier in the program. Do you have any other examples what that might entail?
Well, in addition, the community cat thing has been a big piece of the progression for us. Our live release rate for cats was really low, and the way we could work to increase that was to say, there's a lot of cats out there that are in the environment, and what can we do to help them? The other thing has been to institute this volunteer program and bring in a full-time volunteer coordinator, which we know we've needed for many years. It's just been all about where do you find the funding and find the person. And there's a lot of people out in the community, I think, who really welcome this idea, and I think that helps a lot. The next thing is also bringing in what we call the big fix rig. The animal shelter years ago had no place to do spay and neuter. When we built our cat annex, was in 2003, we put in a small clinic area in there. It had one surgery table, one recovery table. And we put in a grant through the University of Davis when we were notified that there was a surgery trailer available in Florida. And we received that grant, so we were the recipients of a 53-foot semi-truck trailer, which has 3 surgery tables in it, 3 prep tables, and a recovery area. So the majority of our surgery now is done in that area, and that's where we've been trying to kind of put together programs that will allow us to do more spay and neuter for the community, and also cat clinics for the feral cat days, or they used to call it TNR. Now it's more about the community cat program. And then we have a lot of acronyms in our business, but in addition to TNR, which is trap, neuter, and release, we also have SNR, which is shelter, neuter, and release. So when an animal comes into the shelter for cats, then it's altered and then returned back into the area where it came from. So that's kind of a piece of the pie. Another piece of it is the foster programs of instituting our volunteers and having them get involved with giving these dogs that are in our shelters an opportunity to spend time at home. That never used to happen, and I think this really gives us a better idea to see what kind of a personality we deal with and how comfortable they can be in that home environment that we before really didn't know. We had to say to somebody, well, we don't know if it's housebroken, or we don't know how it'll be in your family, or we don't know. And this, it's never 100%, but this certainly gives us more opportunity. And if people are involved in that kind of thing, it certainly gives, somebody who wants to take something home, it gives them a much better idea of what they're welcoming into their environment.
Does the cat table trailer stay at the animal shelter all the time?
It does.
Around?
Yes, it does, because it's a 53-foot semi-truck trailer, and while I happen to have the advantage of having a couple of animal control officers that are have a license to drive a semi-truck, it's not very mobile because we have to kind of squeeze it in, and there were all kinds of things that had to happen to set it up. Here is this big semi-truck trailer, and then how do we get in and out? And they were originally in Florida. We're doing about 130 cat spay neuters a day in this facility. And when we said we're going to bring dogs in and it came with aluminum steps, we thought, well, how are we going to get the dogs up those aluminum steps? It's not a ramp, so it's a little bit more difficult. So the sheriff got involved in the STARS program, which is the sheriff's team of retired seniors, got involved in, and they came over and built the ramp. So we got some decreased cost in lumber from Home Depot, and so we have a ramp that goes up to it. It can still be moved and it can still be pulled out if it needs to be, but we've pretty much made it a stationary object just because of how we have to manage it.
Is it the ramp is because dogs are so big and heavy?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
And trying to carry something that is not necessarily sure. And part of what we do also in our programs is we offer spay and neuter to people's animals who have been impounded in our shelter. And some of those animals are not always very hospitable to being handled by people they don't know. And so if you have a large dog who is not necessarily a willing participant, then it's easier to manage them and get them into the trailer with a ramp.
So Kelly here is with the Yolo County SPCA. Could you tell me what sort of collaboration there is between the SPCA and the Yolo County Animal Services?
Yeah, we're really fortunate to have a pretty close relationship with Animal Services. The Yolo County SPCA actually maintains an office that's staffed full-time by, there are two of us that are full-time and then a third part-time employee. We do the adoption counseling for the shelter. We do rescue for dogs and cats, so animals that maybe are a little too shy or have some other minor issues that make them not quite ready for adoption. We also manage the community cat program and the barn cat program, and we've started recently getting involved in helping with some fostering, dog foster programs that give dogs like Petunia like a weekend break away from the shelter, and increasing the enrichment for the animals at the shelter, toys, treats, training, stuff like that.
What sort of training would they go through?
Well, for dogs, it's often a very stressful place to be in the shelter. There's lots of barking, and it's not the same as being in a nice, comfy home. So we start by, we have treat buckets on every kennel door, and the public is encouraged to give the dogs treats if they're being quiet and sitting at their kennel door rather than jumping and twirling circles. The volunteers work on teaching them to walk nicely on a leash, which is something a lot of adopters would appreciate. And then some of them, if they're there long enough, they get to learn tricks like shake and roll over and spin and stuff like that. So mostly it's just, things to keep their minds active and happy and engaged.
Do you mind if I ask what sort of the SPCA is, as sort of like a larger organization?
Yeah, the office at the shelter is just one part of the organization. The Yolo County SPCA is actually primarily a foster home-based rescue. So we take animals from the shelter often that they're a little shy or need some extra time, and they go into foster homes, and then they're available for adoption through the SPCA at placement events at the Davis Petco. All the animals can be viewed online, the same as with the shelter animals. So yeah, really our piece of the organization at the shelter is kind of specialized for the shelter animals. But most of the organization is made up of wonderful volunteers in foster homes that are helping animals get homes that just need a little extra help.
Can you think of anything else to tell us about the SPCA?
The SPCA has been involved with the shelter since a long time, since 1988. We also sponsor spays and neuters for folks that maybe are a little have a hard time paying a normal, veterinary price for the surgery. Assist with all kinds of animal problems. Oh, we do also run a lost and found program through the shelter. So if folks find an animal or they lose their pet, they contact us, and we try to help keep an eye at the shelter, but also give them some advice for helping to get their animal home as soon as possible.
Have you had much luck with that program?
Yes, we definitely have. I think many people end up finding their animals on their own, but there are certainly some that come into the shelter that we recognize immediately as a match to a lost animal report. And then others have, they do call us back and say, oh, we put up flyers like you told us to in our neighborhood, and sure enough, someone down the street had our dog in their backyard. So yeah, it's definitely, I think, an important service the SPCA provides to give some support to people that they're not sure what to do when their animal goes missing.
Mm-hmm. What other modes of support can you think that the SPCA does for the community?
Well, we do have something called the Hope Fund, which people can apply for online, and that can cover veterinary expenses if someone's pet is sick and they can't afford the veterinary bill. It also can help with pet deposits. If for renters, it's often there's a $300 or $500 deposit for a pet, and in order to help the pet stay with their family, the SPCA will give grants to help cover that deposit.
Okay, well, I think that about does it for this episode of In the Studio. If you would like to follow the Facebook link for more information, that would be great. And if you'd like to meet, I guess there are plenty more dogs with lots of love like Petunia that would just love to be adopted. So thank you for watching.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.